Have you ever wondered how to bring your interior design ideas to life in 3D? But learning a new software to do this can be frustrating, and learning how to make anything else in beginner's guides can be even more frustrating. And if this is you, look no further. I'm going to show you how to model the room, how to light it, how to add materials to it, how to add furniture, and how to animate the interior. We are going to use a software called Blender. I'll show you all the necessary functions that you need in Blender to do this along the way. Let's get started. First up is modeling the room. This is our workspace. We got a cube, a camera, and a light. Down here you will see what I am pressing, and you can follow along. We are going to edit this cube to make it our room. Click on this cube and press tab. Now press G, Z, 1 and enter. It moves your cube along the Z axis by 1 meter. Press tab to go back to the object mode. Now press N. We can change the location, rotation, scale, and size here. Click here and enter the height of the room that you want to create. The interior I am designing is 3.3 meters in height, and it is 6 meters long and 5 meters wide. To see the front of the cube, press numpad 1. Press numpad period key to focus on the cube. I am going to look through the camera now. Press numpad 0 holding down Ctrl and Alt keys. We just move the camera to our view. Now click anywhere on this outline to select the camera. We can change the location of the camera here. These XYZ directions are fixed. However, depending on the location of the camera, we need to change the Y value to go inside the cube. Click and hold here and drag to the right in order to move the camera into the plane of the screen. Now we are inside the cube. I'm changing the Z value as well. It is our camera height. To do additional changes, we can change the properties of the camera. We are doing most of our work looking through the camera. That's why we need to do all of these. Change the focal length to see a wider area. Our next step is creating a hole in the cube to add a window later. So click anywhere in this cube and press tab. You are in the edit mode now. Press R holding the Ctrl key and move the cursor up like this until you see this line. Then scroll down using the mouse, or use the 2 fingers as you do when you are scrolling using a touchpad if you are using a laptop. Scroll down until you have 4 lines like this and click. Then press escape to apply it to the cube. These lines are called as loop cuts. Now do the same for this side too. We need bit more loop cuts here. In fact, I want to divide this face into 12 faces. So I'll add 11 loop cuts. Oh yeah, we can do the modifications over here. Press 3 to go to the face select mode. In this mode, we can select faces and faces only. To select multiple faces, select while holding down the shift key like you usually do. I'm going to extrude these faces away. Press E, type in 0.5 and press enter. It would automatically extrude in the direction that is normal to the selected faces. Hit X to delete these faces. Select Faces option. I'm going to extrude several faces in this side to make a TV fit into the wall, like a TV wall. Select this face and press numpad period key to focus on that. You can rotate the view by moving your usual 2 fingers on the touchpad. Or you can press the middle mouse button and hover around if you are using a mouse. Now select these 5 faces. Press numpad 0 to go to the camera view. Press E, then 0.35 and enter. This would extrude the faces by 0.35 meters like this. By the way, if this video is being helpful to you so far, press the like button so this can reach to more people. The next step is adding a balcony. Press 2 to switch to the edge select mode where you can select edges and edges only. This is how you zoom. We have to select these edges in wireframe and X-ray modes. To see the objects better, we can use these modes. Click over here to go to those modes. Now select these edges like so. Press E, then Y. You have to select the axis along which you want to extrude, since you are not extruding the faces but edges. Then type by how much you want to extrude and enter. Then select these 2 edges as well. Extrude them in the Z direction by 0.85 meters. Press tab to go back to the object mode. We need to apply the scale for the next step. Press Ctrl plus A, select Scale. Now the changes we did to the cube are applied properly. Press Tab to go back to the edit mode, select these edges, and press B holding the Control key. Move the cursor a bit away and click when the selected edges turn into faces. We can change the width of the faces here. Go to the Face Select mode. We are going to delete these faces. But we have created some extra faces that we need to keep. So, select these faces separately and delete faces like this. Go back to the Object mode. We are going to add a guardrail for this wall. Press Shift A, go to Mesh, and select Cylinder. We can change the properties of the cylinder over here. We don't need this many vertices. Try to use lesser vertices as possible. Reduce the radius to 0.02 meters. Keep the rest as it is. And lift this up like this. Rotate the cylinder on the Y-axis by pressing R and then Y. And of course move the cursor. Press Ctrl key while rotating to snap the rotations to round values. Press Enter when the rotation is 90 degrees. Hit numpad 7 which takes us to the plan view to see this better. Move the cylinder along the Y-axis by 5 meters. Change the dimensions. Adjust the location of the cylinder like this. Zoom in on this edge. Go to the Edit mode, switch to the Edge Select mode and select these edges on the cylinder. Press Shift, Ctrl, Alt and S to shear. I know, that's a lot of keys. Press -1 and Enter. Now the edge you selected is sheared by 45 degrees. Zoom out. Press E and then Y to extrude the face like this. Extrude it by 1.5 meters. Now shear this edge again. Press Y to change the shear axis though. Do the same for this side as well. Press numpad 0 to look through the camera. Move this object down so that it is placed on these faces, like so. Now we need two other cylinders to be the posts that this object sits on. Add a new cylinder, lift it up in the edit mode. By the way, this is the difference between moving objects in the object mode and in the edit mode. Change the height like this. Go to the top view by pressing numpad 7 and move the cylinder to this corner. Duplicate it by pressing Alt D. Hit X and move it in the X direction. And click when the movement is 4 meters. That would give you an identical cylinder but without increasing the number of vertices in the scene. But you don't have to worry too much about these vertices right now. Just remember that the properties of these two are linked since you press Alt D instead of Shift D. The next step is adding a set of planks. We can start by adding a cube. Go back to the solid view. Press Z, move the cursor to the right like this and click. Move the cube by a meter in the edit mode. Go to the object mode and change the dimensions like this. Height should be the same as the room height. The width of the plank is 7.5 centimeters and the thickness should be 2.5 centimeters. You can put any value you think is appropriate. Now move this plank towards this corner like so. Let's focus on this plank. Click on this wrench icon to go to the Modifier Properties tab. From this drop-down, select Array. We want the array on the Y direction, therefore set factor x to 0. Insert -1 as the factor so the planks will be inside the room. And this 1 means the planks are exactly 1 width away from the nearest plank. Increase the count like this. However, when we input -1, we cannot see that we have more than 1 planks. To fix that, we can put -1.1 here. Now the planks are away from their nearest one by 1.1 of their width. We need few more planks. Now I am going to add a small slab to fit into the TV wall on the left. The workflow is the same, and I think now you can do it on your own. I'll just fast forward it. We can save the blend file now. Press Ctrl S. Choose the folder you want to save it in. Give a proper name and press Save Blend File. One final thing, we need to add a window. To do so, I'm using an add-on, which is an extra feature, we just have to enable it. Go to Edit, Preferences. You should be on this add-on section. Search for Archimesh. Tick here to enable it. Make sure these autosave preferences are checked too. Now we can add a window. Press Shift A, under Mesh, Archimesh, select Rail window. We can change the location of the window. Go over to this list here. We call it the outliner. Select this window group and change the location over here. To scale it properly, we can use the specific controls that comes with the add-on. Just scaling is not a good option. Select window frame from the outliner. Go to the Create menu. Change the window size like this. Width should be 4 meters. I'm fine with the thickness. Height should be 3.3 meters. Now we are in the layout workspace. However, we are not going to do lighting in this workspace because we have a separate workspace just for lighting and texturing. That is the shading workspace. This is our room. I don't like this default arrangement of the windows. We can rearrange it like this. Move the cursor over here, and when the cursor turns into a crosshair, click and drag up. And do the same here as well. Now expand this window like so. We want to see our room, so click here and choose 3D viewport. On default, it is in the plan view. Let me enable the screencast key so you can see what I am pressing. Press number pad 0 to go to the camera view. Zoom in like this. So this is where we are going to have our materials. Click on this object button and choose world. These are called as nodes. You'll understand the purpose of each of these nodes while we are moving ahead. We cannot see any changes yet because we really didn't do anything. Go to the render properties by clicking this icon. We are going to change the render settings. The first thing is changing the render engine. Right now it is in Eevee render engine. For photorealistic scenes, we need Cycles render engine. We'll use that. Next, we are going to choose the device in our computer that we are going to use for rendering. We'll use GPU because GPU is much faster than the CPU. If you don't see the GPU option, we can fix that too. Go to Edit, Preferences, System. Check this box if you don't see the GPU option. If you have an NVIDIA GPU, choose Optics. Otherwise, choose CUDA. Now close this. The next thing we are going to change is the maximum samples amount. Higher the samples, higher the quality. This image has 16 samples. This has 128 samples. For the viewport, we don't need this many samples. We can work with 32 samples. It doesn't affect the quality of the final render. This setting is for the render, meaning the final image that we are going to get. Click on this denoise button. It is going to reduce the time to get a clearer image. This is 128 samples without denoising. This is after denoising. Change this value to 32, which is our maximum sample count here. We can change the other settings later. Now we are going to render this in the viewport. Scroll this way. Press this button. This is the render. It will take some time depending on your graphics card. We can see some light, but it's not enough. Select the light in the outliner. Now you can move it around by pressing G. Press Escape to cancel the movement. Rotate the view to see where our light is. Zoom out. Here it is. Now move the light like this. Enough with fooling around with the light. Let's go back to the camera view. We are not going to use this light, so let's delete it. But we still have some light. That's because we have this grey colored background. We can make it any color. By the way, our render would be much faster if we only render what we see through the camera. Press Ctrl+B and select this area seen through the camera. However, we are not going to use this color for the lighting. We are going to use an environment texture. Click on this green dot and drag the cursor away. Release the cursor and type in environment texture. You don't have to type in the whole thing. Press enter twice when you see environment texture as a result. Now the environment is all pink. That means we have to select an environment texture in our PC. Now where can we download these environment textures? Polyhaven is one of the best sites to download HDRIs. Sometimes they are called HDRIs. There are a lot of HDRIs organized into categories based on the environment, cloud cover, contrast, time of the day. It is better to have an overcast or cloudy HDRI for interior scenes because they have soft lighting. Here we can see what kind of shadows these HDRIs produce. A sunny sky without clouds would give you sharper shadows, while cloudy HDRIs would give you soft shadows. By the way, if my content is being helpful so far, hit the like button. Thank you for doing that. Click on the HDRI you want to download. You can choose any resolution you want, but I'm recommending you to choose a lesser resolution because we would see very little of this HDRI through the curtains, which we will add later. And it would increase the render time almost 4 times when you are doubling the resolution. We need one more file here. Click on these 3 lines and choose 8K tone mapped JPG. We will use this image as our environment, and the light will be coming from the previous file that we downloaded. So this is my collection of the HDRIs. I'm using this HDRI. Double click on it to open. Actually, it is not an HDRI, it is an EXR file. You don't have to worry about that. Now this is how these nodes work. We have an input, this image, a process, this node, and the output, this node. Sometimes both these input and process can be a single node. But we should have something connected to the output. Since it is a 1K version, it does not look good. We can fix it. Select these 2 nodes and press Shift D to duplicate them. We'll use that 8K tone mapped image in this node. To connect both of these nodes to the output, we need a Mix Shader node. Press Shift A, go to Shader, Mix Shader. Put it between these 2 nodes. Press this button to make it a separate node, since it is a duplicate of the previous node. Click on this folder icon and select 8K JPG file that we downloaded. But it doesn't change anything. That's because we haven't connected it to the output. Click on this green dot and drag it like this, and release it when you reach this dot. Now we want the camera to use only the HDRI for the lighting and the JPG image for the background. To do so, we need a light path node. Click on this dot and drag away. Search for light path. Choose this one. Give it some time to render. Now it seems a bit better. Light is coming from the HDRI. The environment we see is from the 8K tone map JPG image. But it still has some blur when we look through the camera. Because of this node setup we use, the light doesn't seem to be properly passing through the glass. We can fix it. Make some room, duplicate this mix shader and place it here. Connect this node with the other shader input. Connect this glossy ray with the FAC input. Give it some time to render. Now it seems better. We can come out of this camera view to see the surrounding a bit. Don't worry about this room not being on the ground. That wouldn't be visible from the inside. Go back to the camera view. Now we need to change the area that we are seeing through the window. To do that, we need to rotate this HDRI along the Z-axis. And for that, I'm using the Node Wrangler add-on which comes with Blender. Search for Node Wrangler add-on and check for this box to enable it. Click on this node and press T while holding the Control key. Now connect these 2 nodes as well, because we need the same rotation for the HDRI as well as the JPG image. Now we have the control over the Z rotation of the HDRI. Click and drag towards left or right to change the rotation. Give it some time to render. I don't like what I am seeing right now, so let me rotate it again. I like this view. We can increase the strength of the light coming from the HDRI. I'm going to put 10 here and see. And we can increase the strength of this image as well. Otherwise it would seem odd. to have a brightly lit interior with a gloomy looking environment. Probably we can reduce the strength a little. Switch to the material preview mode and go back to the object shader. Click inside the room to select it. This node is from the default material that comes with the cube. Let's see what each of these inputs of the node do. This determines the color of the material. Click and hold anywhere on this circle and move the cursor. Release it when you get the color you need. The roughness value determines the roughness or the shininess of the material. A value of 1 for the metallic would make the surface metallic and a value of 0 for non-metallic materials. We don't keep anything in between 0 and 1 because all the materials are either metallic or non-metallic. Transmission value is used to make glass material. Let me undo these changes because we need this default material. These are the values you would change most of the time. And we'll learn functions of some of the other inputs along the way. And we are not going to change these manually and make our materials. We'll use image textures that would be connected to these inputs. We'll use an add-on to download those textures. I have included the link to download this add-on, the EasyPBR add-on. Click this install button and locate the downloaded zip files. Don't unzip the first file. Just double-click on it to install. Type EasyPBR in the search bar. Check this box. Expand it and press this folder icon. You have to unzip this library file. Open this file too where we have these 4 files and press accept. Now close this window. By the way, there are a lot of other add-ons that you can use to get materials. I'll put a link to a video that reveals some of the best material add-ons in the description. To see the add-on, press N and click on this ePBR button. Load the library and click here to see all the materials that we can use. That is a lot, right? We are going to use a marble material for the floor. Out of these marble materials, we'll use this marble 007 material. Click on this download button. You can select any resolution you want, but remember that higher the resolution, higher the quality, but takes longer to render. Press OK. After downloading the material, press this plus button. Press OK. Click on this icon to go to the material properties. You can see the marble material here as well as the default material. Select the marble material. So this is the node setup. There are connections to the color, roughness and normal inputs. This is the node that all of these inputs are connected to. Now we need to apply this marble material to the floor. Go to the edit mode and select these faces in the face select mode. Click and hold the left mouse button, drag away and release it to make the selection. Press Shift G and choose normal to select all the faces on the floor. Then hit assign in the material properties. We need to increase the scale of this texture. To do that, we can use the mapping node that comes with the node setup. Click and hold here and drag down before releasing. Type in by how much you want to scale it up. So this is what happens when scaling. Here the scale is 1. Therefore, the texture is only used once. On the other hand, when the scale is 3, the texture is used 9 times. Being a marble texture, we cannot guess the scale, but this looks okay. One other thing, down here you can see this material has some unevenness due to some bumps and pothole kind of things. We can reduce it in the displacement node. I'll just remove it completely by putting 0 here. The normal map is also going to affect this bump, so we have to reduce it too. Next, we'll add the plaster material for the wall. Select these faces. Choose plaster from this list of materials. I'm using this plaster 004 material. I have downloaded it previously, so I don't need to download it again. Press the plus button, click OK. Select the plaster material and hit assign. Here you can see some issues. We can solve this issue by unwrapping the cube. Press A to select all the faces and press U to unwrap the room. Select Smart UV project. Press OK. That is how we fix the stretching of the texture. Let's see what happens when we unwrap this cube. Right now, this cube is not properly unwrapped. The template doesn't look good. Blender needs to figure out which part of the texture should be in which face of the cube in order to have a realistic look. And this is what the template of a properly unwrapped cube looks like. Now the cube is far better. I want to make this wall look a little bit more interesting. Speaking of which, if you find my content is interesting, press the like button so that this video can reach more people. We can simply darken the middle part of the wall. We need to add a hue saturation value node to control the darkness. Press Shift A, go to Color, select Hue Saturation Value and place it here. Now we can change this value. But now everything is dark. Add a new material. In this drop down, select this Plaster 004. Now we want to make this a separate material. Go to the Object mode, come back and press this button. Now it is a separate material. We can change the darkness of the new material like this. But we can't see any changes yet. We need to apply it first. Select these faces and apply the second material. Now it is done. Adding material to this little guy is easy. Select it and choose the marble material down here. Apply the scale and unwrap the cube. Now it looks better. Although you might not notice it, these textures are on the wrong face of this object. Since these faces don't have a thickness, we can still see the texture. The issue here is with the bumps and potholes being on the wrong side. To see these right and wrong faces, go to Overlays, check this face orientation. If we are looking at red, that means we are looking at the wrong faces. We need to flip these faces. In the Edit mode, press A to select all. Hit N, holding the Alt key. Select Recalculate Inside. Now blue means we are looking at the correct faces. Now uncheck the face orientation in the overlays. I want these walls to have a tinted glass material. It is same as making a copy of a darker plaster wall. Select the faces, add a new material. Choose the glass material that comes with the window and assign it. Let's find the node setup so that we can make it tinted. This node is not connected to anything, so I'll delete it. What we need to change is this color. But if we do so, it would affect the window too. So, go back to the object mode and make this a separate material by pressing this 3. You can rename it if you want. Now we can change the color. The final thing we have to do is adding a material to these planks. Select these planks. Download the wood material. I'm choosing this wood 003 material and add it to the planks. We can separate it from the workspace by pressing the / key. Do you notice any issue with this? First we'll apply the scale and unwrap it. So the issue is each of these planks looks exactly the same. How to get around it? There's one simple trick. Go to the modifier properties. Expand this UV section. Change these offsets. Anything other than the default values would do. Let me show you how it works. But first things first, what are these UVs? They are the coordinates of the cube on a flat surface. Alright? Now let's see what happens when we change the UV offsets. This is with the default UV offsets. We need to apply the modifier. Go to the edit mode. So these are the UVs of the individual planks. Right now they are on the same location on the texture. We want to scatter them around a bit. Let me undo this. Now change the UV offsets. Make sure that U and V offsets are different. We need to apply the modifier. Now go to the edit mode. The UVs are scattered now, just like we wanted. My go-to site to download furniture and decorations is 3dsky.com. There are a lot of high-quality free assets for you to download. When you are selecting furniture, try to stick to one style. For example, if your interior is a modern one, stick with modern furniture. And note these dimensions somewhere, because sometimes you might have to scale them. What you download is a zip file containing the model and the textures. The model is usually an OBJ file or an FBX file. That's alright, we can import them to Blender. But this is not free. You get only 3 assets for free per day for one account. The other site I'm using is the 3dwarehouse.com, which contains a massive amount of free assets. What I like about this the most is you don't have to load in materials. All the materials are packed into the file you download, which saves a lot of time. One downside to this site is you don't see a good preview, although the actual model has a higher quality. So if you're beginners, my advice is to start adding furniture sticking to your natural instincts. Then do some research and make sure that you are not doing any blunders. Otherwise, you'd be overwhelmed by all of these interior designing concepts right at the start, which is not a good thing. So let's start adding furniture. The first thing I'm going to add is curtains. As the files we downloaded are not blend files, we have to import them. So, go to File, Import, choose the file type you downloaded. My curtain is an OBJ file, so let me select this wavefront option. Then, locate the file and open it like this. These are my curtains. It is so big that we cannot even see. Get out of the camera view and zoom out to see it properly. When these files are opened, they are automatically selected. Press S and hit 0.01 to scale it down. Now you can see the curtains properly. Press Alt Z to go to the X-ray mode to see them when you are in the plan view. Now move them here. Go to the camera view and switch to the solid view mode. Scale this up a little. Move it back. We don't need this middle part of the curtains. We can delete it. Go to the edit mode. Select this area and press Ctrl L to select the whole connected mesh. Press delete and select vertices. Separate the curtains from the scene by pressing slash. We can move the curtains away from each other. Select this part of the curtain. Press G and then X to move it away like this. Do the same for the curtains on the other side too. Now we can go to the solid view. We are done with resizing the curtains. Now move the whole curtain this way. What we need to do is cover these two edges of the window. With this curtain there is a little issue. There is no way to hold this curtain in this position practically. The curtain must hang somewhere on the ceiling. So what we can do is we can hide this topmost part. To do so, select the room, go to the edit mode, select few of these faces and select the whole ceiling like this. But we don't need these faces. Unselect them holding the shift key. Now press I to insert the faces. Move the cursor towards the middle like this and click. We can change the thickness here. Now extrude it down like this. Select the curtains. Now we can add materials to the curtains. Like always, we'll go to the shading workspace to do that. We need a fabric material. I'm using this fabric 023. Add it to the curtains. However, we don't want this fabric to be blue. We only want the image texture that comes with the node setup. Press numpad period key to focus on the curtains. Remove this existing material. Add the mix color node here. It is to mix these two colors. Click on this dot and connect it to the factor input. Next, add an RGB node and connect it to both color A and B. Remember when I said we are almost done with the materials in the last video? This is why. Let me make some room here. Add an RGB curve like this. Place it here. Pick a color you like. I need this to be yellowish creamy color. Now click and hold on this line and move it like this. Release when you get the color you want. Although this may seem a little bit complicated for a beginner, it's not. We just took a color and a darker version of it and mixed it according to the image texture. Next we need a see-through material for the middle part of the curtain. Add a new material. Delete this big node, the principal BSDF node. I'm not going to explain each and every node because it would take a lot of time to do that. Search and find the nodes and add them to the node setup following my steps. By the way, if you are new to this channel, I make videos about interior modeling. So if you want to learn about interior modeling, subscribe me. Now go to the edit mode. Select this middle part like this and assign the see-through material. We cannot see it through yet because we are in the material preview mode, but when we go to the rendered view, we'll see it. That's not too bad. Now we can add the rest of the assets, which wouldn't be this hard. We can add a sofa now. The process is the same. Go to File, Import, select the file type, locate the asset, and open. The sofa is also scaled up by default. Scale it down by 0.001 times. If you want to get the scale precisely, you can do so if you know the real dimensions. Here's how to do it. Add a cube, lift it up in the edit mode, and change its height to the height of the sofa, which is 81 centimeters. Then compare the sofa with the cube. If they don't have the same height, scale the sofa accordingly. Press Shift Z after pressing G to restrict its movement on Z axis. Rotate it around Z axis and place it here. After that, I added a rug, a couple of chairs, and a coffee table. Although this furniture comes with textures, I used materials from the EasyPBR add-on as well as the variations of the material I just made. For the chairs, I added the wood texture that was used for the planks. And for the cushion, I used a variation of the curtain material. We can do that easily by just darkening the copy of the curtain material. For the sofa, I used a blue color so that it stands out from the rest of the furniture. And it makes the living room a bit more interesting. Select this material. I'm going to add a material for the pillows. It'll be just an image texture. Click Open and select an image texture. Increase the sheen value up to 1 because clothes have sheen. I made a metal material for the legs of the sofa. It is easy. What I did was simply lowering the roughness and increasing the metallic value up to 1. To complete the seating area, I added a floor lamp. There are some SketchUp scenes that I downloaded from 3D Warehouse. To import them, we need to have Import SketchUp Scenes add-on. I have included the link to download it in the description. Activation is pretty simple. I hope you can handle it now. Now we can import SketchUp scenes. Go to File, Import, select Import SketchUp Scenes. Now locate the SketchUp file and import. This is our TV, but we don't need these parts. I'm deleting them. I'm going to keep it here. We want a sofa right in front of this TV, so move this like so. I added this flower vase, couple of books and this object as a decoration. But I don't like this flower vase. I'm deleting it. So what is this? It is an empty object, usually used as a parent to the object. If you move it, the rest of the objects are going to follow it, but not the other way around. So select all, press Alt P. Select Clear and Keep Transformation. Now it's alright. We want to clear the parent before we are going to delete it. Otherwise all of these objects would be deleted. Place it here. We can add materials to these books, the floor lamp and the TV. I used the same see-through material that we created earlier for this lamp. Actually, these book cover images are from a different model. It's not that hard. I'm using the marble material for the object on the top. For the TV, one important thing is decreasing the roughness. For some objects, all the textures that should be aren't there. For example, look at this tray. Click on this fold icon. These are the textures that it comes with. We have a wood texture, but we don't have a normal map, which is usually blue in color. Therefore, I am using the bump texture instead. By the way, if you are enjoying my content up to now, press the like button so that this video can reach to more people. Thank you for doing that. And one other thing, if an image texture is not connected to the base color input, don't keep the color space as sRGB. We use sRGB color space only for the base color input. Strength of 1 is way too much for this. Let's reduce it down to 0.1. Since this is not the focus of the scene, you only need the image texture for the color. But if you don't have all the textures, make sure these nodes are disconnected from the principal BSDF node. I don't want these things, so I'm going to delete them. So, a little tip for you. When you have something like this with lot of separate objects, it is always a good thing to join them. Select all of these flowers and then select the vase. Make sure one thing of the selected set is highlighted in yellow, like this vase. Then press J holding the Ctrl key to join them. Now you can select the whole object. Place it here. We need the flower vase near the TV. I added these two flowers and the vase on top of the tray. These books and the object are too large, so scale it down. I duplicated these two books that were on the coffee table onto this slab. Let's move them towards this corner. I duplicated these books once and made some subtle changes like scaling and rotating. I changed their textures as well. Then I added the ceiling lamp and these plants. Sometimes we have to use stuff from other objects to make our assets complete. For example, we need this little ground plane from this plant to be used for this plant. And I added another plant. Plants are a great way to make interiors connected with the nature. By the way, for the ceiling lamp, we do have a normal map. Let me show you. So this image texture in blue is the normal map. We cannot see the whole room through the camera. Select the camera and increase the clip start value in the camera properties. So what is this clip start value? Clip start value determines the minimum distance from the camera where rendering will start. Objects closer to the camera than this clip start value will not be rendered since they are invisible to the camera. Now move the camera back so we would see everything we want to see. This view looks alright. Now I can increase the focal length. But then we have to change the clip start value and the location of the camera. You have to play with these values to get a good view. Now go to the rendered view. This is our scene. It seems like our scene is a bit underexposed. To fix that, go to render properties. Scroll down, expand this color management section. First, change this look into high contrast. Change the view transform to false color. The red colored areas are the overexposed areas, and the blue colored areas are the underexposed areas. Change this exposure value. If there are places which are grey in color, then they have appropriate amount of exposure. If your focal element is in grey color, that means your scene is properly exposed. Or the other thing we can do is keeping this exposure the same and increase the strength of the HDRI. We need to increase the strength of this shader. I'm going to increase that up to a value of 8. That looks a little bit better. Oh, there is this third way which is my favorite. That is adding more doors and windows. Right now, our interior is a box without an entrance or an exit. If we can have two openings, like a corridor, like this, it would be much realistic and we can even reduce the strength of the HDRIs. Go back to the camera view. I'm reducing the strength down to 3. Do we need to change anything else? No, we don't. Let's see the rendered view. By the way guys, I am so happy to tell you that I have 500 subscribers now. Thank you so much for your love and support. I really appreciate it. One final thing before we render this, we can add some bevels to these hard edges. Select this little slab, this wall and these planks and press slash to separate them from the view. Select this object. Go to edit mode. Select everything and press Ctrl B. Click when you get this kind of an edge. Now change its parameters like this. Check this harden normals option. Do the same for these edges of the room and for this set of planks. You can change the bevel width if you want. Now we can render this. But before we do, we have to adjust render settings. We don't need this many samples. 256 samples would be more than enough. With a higher sample count, you get a better quality image, but it takes longer to render. Make sure denoising is enabled. We don't need this many light paths either. Lesser the light paths, lesser the light in the scene. And it reduces the render time. But it doesn't affect the quality that much. So you can reduce this value. These max bounces of the light paths represent the amount of light bouncing off of these different kind of surfaces. Diffuse, glossy, transmission, volume, or whatever. The distribution of bouncing light is this way. Better to keep these values the same. And we don't need caustics. That is something that happens due to the behavior of the light rays, which we don't need for this scene. So those are the only settings we need. Now go to render. Select render image. Now your image would be rendered. Alright, rendering is finished now. Now all you have to do is save this render. Go to image, press save. I'll save it here. Give it a proper name and press the save button. Next up is making an animation out of this. We'll start by adding keyframes to the camera. Select the camera by clicking anywhere on this edge. Press I. Select location and rotation. What we did was save in the location and rotation of the camera. Down here click on this 90. Now press G and Z twice to move the camera in or out of the plane of the screen. I'm moving the camera away from the scene. Click when you get the view you need and press I to add a keyframe here. That means save in the location and rotation of the camera. Now we have saved two camera locations, 90 frames away from each other. By the way, this plank set need more planks, so change the count in the array modifier. To see what we did, select the camera. Go to the first frame by dragging this playhead. To be honest, up until a while ago, I didn't know this thing is called the playhead. Just for the sake of this video, I just referred the Blender manual. So it says this is called the playhead. So this is playhead. Now let's press the space bar to see our animation. Here we go. Press the space bar again to pause. That's it. We finished animating this. No, I'm just kidding. But really, this is all you need to know basically. Next step, we need to save some other camera angles. Press the right arrow key once to go forward by a single frame. Now let's get out of this camera view to save a different camera angle. Don't mind this camera clipping for the moment. Just find a good view. This looks good. Bring the camera to the view like this. Let's move the camera back so we can see everything. This looks perfect. I'm going to adjust these rotation values because I need to look at this scene straight on. Usually when the camera is moved to the view, it is tilted a little bit. I'm bringing the camera a little bit down so I can see the front chair completely. And don't forget to add keyframes, otherwise this view will not be saved. So I hope now you can add as many keyframes as needed to save the views you want. I saved this frame as well. Add a keyframe, press the right arrow key to go forward by a single frame. Next we are going to make an animation to be posted on social media. I'll use a different resolution for that. What is resolution? Resolution refers to the dimensions, width and height of the final rendered image or animation, and it is measured in pixels. Go to Output Properties. I'm going to switch X and Y dimensions to make this a vertical or a portrait video. Zoom out the view. Move the camera closer and adjust the clip start value. This is alright. Now rotate the camera on the Z-axis. Now press I to add a keyframe. We just need rotation, although I choose location and rotation every time. Now go to the 243rd frame. Change the rotation of the camera to the last frame that you want to see. Add a keyframe there also. So between the frame 93 to frame 243, the camera will rotate. Why did I choose these specific values, you might wonder? Let me show you. Go to Output Properties. Under the frame rate, we have 30 frames per second. You can choose any FPS value you want out of these. But lower the FPS value, you would notice that the animation is made out of still images. I want this to be a 5-second video. So 243 minus 93, it is 150. And if the animation has 30 frames per second, It is going to take 5 seconds to show all the frames. By the way, if you're new to this channel, I make videos about modeling interiors in Blender. So if you want to learn about modeling interiors in Blender, keep me subscribed. Do you see the camera start rotating slowly, then speeds up, and when it reaches near 243rd frame, it slows down again. However, if we want, we can have a uniform speed for the camera. Zoom the timeline and select these 2 frames. Click this button and select Graph Editor. Press Normalize. It gives a better visualization of the graph. We have selected these 2 keyframes. Now this is a curvy graph, which means the speed of the camera rotation varies with time. We want a uniform speed, so press V and select Vector. Now the graph is a straight line. So we are done with the graph editor. Let's go back to the timeline. So if you press the space bar now, you can see the camera rotates at a uniform speed. If we only want to play between 93rd and 243rd frame, we can change the start and end frames here. Now all we have to do is change in the output properties. In the output properties, click on this folder icon to choose the folder onto which you want to save these frames. We can make a separate folder. Open it and press Accept. File format should be PNG. We are rendering still frames and then compiling them into a video. Don't choose anything else. Keep this overwrite option turned on if you want to replace the image files you are rendering with the latest ones. That means if you are for some reason rendering the same frame twice, the new image will replace the old one. Now we are ready to render. Go to Render, select Render Animation. It doesn't matter what frame you are looking at right now. The rendering will start from the starting frame down here. So I rendered the rest of the frames off camera and now we are ready to make our first video. Up to now what we did was render in single frames. We need to make an animation. I'm using Blender itself to render the video. Go to File, New, select Video Editing. Change this resolution to the resolution of the rendered images. This is a new interface. There are new windows. Don't worry, this is much easier. Press Shift A while the cursor is over this window and pick Image/Sequence. Locate the rendered images. Press A to select all the images. Then click on Add Image Strip. We have loaded the rendered images to the scene. Now press the space bar to play the animation. We need to do a couple of changes here. First, change the frame rate of the animation to the frame rate of the rendered images. Otherwise, the animation wouldn't be smooth. Now it's better. We can change the end frame here to only see the frames in the image strip. Now select where you want to save your animation. Open the folder and press Accept. Select FFmpeg Video as the output option. These are the only settings you need. Now we can render the animation. Similarly, we can render the first animation we made between frame 1 and frame 90, as well as the keyframes that we saved. Now this is your video. Although it takes a lesser time to render the animation, the images we rendered took a lot of time. Therefore, we can try another method. It is a compromise actually. What we can do is rendering a single frame and animate that frame. I'll show you how to do it. Increase the resolution up to 200. Now render the image. Open a new video editing workspace like before. Press Shift A and select Image/Sequence. Pick the image that you rendered. Click on the edge in the image strip and drag this way. Let's press the space bar to play. It doesn't change anything. Go to the strip properties. Scroll down. Increase the scale. And click on these 2 dots in front of the scale values. We are going to make a zoom out animation. Now hover the mouse over the sequencer panel and press the right arrow key holding the Shift key. That moves the playhead to the last frame in the animation. Now decrease the scale and click on these 2 diamond shapes like this. Now when we press the space bar, we can see the animation. Yeah, it is that simple. Now we can render the animation. It doesn't take much time. This is the rendered animation. So with this video, we have come to an end of this video series, Interior Modeling for Complete Beginners in 3D. So if you have finished the whole video series, this video on the screen would be perfect for you.